got the cornfield calm, Midwest tone, but he's spitting facts like a dog with a bone. Lanky frame, fire-haired eyes on the case, breaking down the game in the darkest place. Sports scores to murder boards, Hoosier logic cuts like swords. From Friday lights to chalked out lines, this redhead's brain rewrites the lines inside the Hoosier mind, where the stories twist and stats unwind. He's a legend in flannel, mic in hand, digging deep where few can stand. From touchdowns to crime scenes raw, he's got the truth in every draw. Yeah, step in if you dare to find what's brewing inside the Hoosier mind. He'll talk Pacers, Colts, or Colts on trial. Hoosier humor with a devilish smile. He's that redhead sleuth with a box of clues. Takes your headline, breaks the news. With every stat and every scream, he's painting portraits in your stream. Don't blink, he'll tie it tight. From game night wins to murder fight. Inside the Hoosier mind, where the facts hit hard and the lines are blind. He's a ginger ninja, smooth and slick, cracking cases play by play quick. From courtrooms to the hardwood floor, he digs for more than just the score. Tune in and don't rewind, you're deep now inside the Hoosier mind.
All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome into Inside the Hoosier Mind, brought to you by Military Broadcast Radio, helping give veterans a voice, as well as Gunfighter Beard Co. If you want great beard options, I know Joe has his kind of shaved into a nice little goatee there, and I trim mine down from looking like a mainly like a guy who lives at a refrigerator box on the side of the highway, but that's perfectly okay. If you want great beard care products, check him out. He is a Marine out of South Carolina. All of his ingredients are locally sourced. All of his stuff locally made here in the U.S. And he gives great stuff. I am wearing his stuff currently. It's banana taffy. Smells absolutely delicious. Makes me want to actually eat my beard, even though I would probably gag at the texture of that. But nonetheless, though, really good stuff. Well, we are back. We are almost to the end of July. And Joe, you know what that means? You know what happens next month?
I assume the cats get a different flavor of beard cream?
Yes, you're not wrong on that. But we get the tiny little inkling of football starting next month.
Real football.
Real football, because we have technically the preseason for the NFL technically kicks off next month, but we have our very first college football game of week 0 happening next month as well, with Kansas State taking up, not Kansas State, what am I doing? TCU taking on the other purple team, taking on North Carolina in Ireland to start off week 0 next month. So we're getting there. But in the meantime, we've had some kind of fresh, hot news blowing in, especially because it's the summer, and what better way to fill the summer than with all the drama and all the debates in the entire world. We've got the Michigan athletic director stepping down. LeBron James has finally decided he wants to pick a team in like the worst possible way, but he's not ring chasing, but he's still the GOAT. Maybe, not really, question mark. And then we have the SEC media days concluded last week, and now we have the Big Ten media days kicking off this week. But that led to a whole lot of questions for the SEC. But nonetheless, though, let's start with probably the first and the biggest question, though, of the Michigan athletic director, Ward Manuel, stepping down at the end of this calendar year, given everything that happened with Jim Harbaugh, with Connor Stallions. I think they said 13 staffers on that Michigan staff they've had to cut or let go. And it just goes to show you that even though he has been the athletic director for Michigan since 2016, so going into his 10th year, that you can win a national championship in football within the last 3 years, and you can win a national championship in men's basketball last year, literally this past season, and it's not enough to save you from getting ousted as the athletic director. Joe, I know this is your favorite team, so this probably hits a little bit of a soft spot for you.
Oh
I know
my!
you're crushed, but what's your thoughts? Did he really deserve to basically? It's kind of like he's being ousted as the scapegoat or one of the scapegoats at the moment because of all the shenanigans.
So two things to add on to what you said. Not only winning a national title, but then your winning head coach goes to the pros.
Yeah.
Doesn't want to stay at the program. So there was kind of a red flag. And also, as much as I love dunking on the Harbaughs and seeing how they're not allowed on campus for 5 years, which is, not a great, great thing for your national title winning coach to have. Their replacement was let go because he impregnated a staffer and then was crazy and went to jail. What has happened to Michigan athletics? And I say that is unfair to the other teams in the sports that have kept themselves clean. But the two biggest sports at the University of Michigan, which are men's basketball and men's football, have had huge and weird things happen. Winning national titles, coaches leaving. Again, if a guy wants to go to the pros, that's fine. It is kind of odd that he took the Dallas job because, yes, Cooper Flag is going to be good, but it's not like they have Luka Doncic. It's not like it's the Lakers. Like, it is Michigan basketball. You can create a legacy there. You can build something. You can keep recruiting. You have a university, as much as I don't like them, that has pretty deep pockets with the NIL and all this stuff. So it's not like it's it's not like Butler and Brad Stevens years ago. Like, this is a program that can sustain itself for a very long time. And the football team, at this point, what you don't say about the football team is more surprising than what you do, because it is just, they have these top recruiting classes, but then they never have high-end talent. But they're competitive. But then their coaching is, again, you talked about a Harbaugh, Stallions, Moore. Like, what is going on here? And again, this is what happens when we talked about this on the last show I was on. And thank you again for having me on, by the way. But when you get into NIL and all this money and all this drama, whether it's the highest paid coaches in a sport, these kids who are millionaires at 18, 19, 20 years old and hold a lot of the power, eventually that power, it's got to seep from somewhere. And it's not going to seep from the coaches because they have to be able to control. So it is usually the administrative. These are the guys that in Wall Street that get the golden parachutes to leave, because the question really is, what is his job? What is, in 2026, if you're an athletic director of a Big Ten school, of an SEC school, of a Big 12 school, what is your actual job? And I just don't think his job going into year 10 was the same job that it was in 2016 when he was hired.
No. And I will say too, for a little bit of for clarification. So according to the reports, Dusty May didn't leave Michigan because he didn't enjoy being there, at least initially, by what we know, barring anything else coming out between now and then.
Yeah.
It was basically reported he doesn't care for how the college landscape is currently, as far as, he's constantly having to go out and basically rebuild his roster, which it is frustrating for a lot of these coaches. It is a complete and total adaptation for something that these guys, you look at Dusty May, you look at somebody like, and we'll get to him here in a second. You look at Kyle Whittingham. Kyle Whittingham was the head coach of Utah for 20 years. And, he's had to adapt and change how he approached Utah football, and now coming into Michigan. So it is a big change for them. And I think it hurts and makes things even more difficult when you have somebody that, looking at the athletic director, it's like, okay, you've been here for 10 years. Like, you've seen literally the highs and the lows of the program for the last decade. And like you said, the fact that there are other programs that their hands aren't as dirty. They don't have as many issues with all of this. And yet here's a proud and prestigious university that has been around forever. They have tons of graduates, both, academically, professionally, athletically, all of that. and here they are, absolutely just struggling and having issues as a professional university going through this. It does seem weird though, because I guess initially from reports it seemed like Michigan wants to almost fire him, but it's kind of hard to do that because of his success. But it also seems as though this is going to be their quote unquote quick fix to hide this. Now, one of the things that I guess makes it more incriminating for him, and I don't know if we would ever find out how much of this, really ties back to him. The rumor is that personal assistant that Sharon Moore had, that he had a relationship with, Sharon Moore asked if she would be able to travel with him, which again, weird. First weird. And according to reports, Ward Manuel was like, probably not a good look. Not a no, don't do that. Just a probably.
May I suggest not going through with that is probably what he said.
Right. And like it begs the question, who has to be the adult in the room then, of like, hey man, not boss to subordinate, not athletic director to head coach, Ward to Sharon, man to man, brother, just no, don't do it. Just telling you now, don't do it. So
there's a great piece of advice that I have for anybody who is going to somebody with an awkward question. Okay. So if you, Tony, come to me and say, hey, Joe, I have this girl. We're having a fling. I'm married. Do you think I should bring her on the road? Let me pick up the phone as the person who just received that question, call my boss and say, hey, I got this side piece. I'm married. Can I take her on the road? And if the person who just asked me that question looks at me like, hey, what are you doing? Then they should probably know the answer already. We all want to be kind of told what we feel is good, not what the right answer is. And the fact that Moore apparently went to Manuel and said, hey, I think it'd be cool if she could travel with us. And Manuel didn't immediately go, why? Because he knew the answer. Yes. And that's, again, it's like I talked about, when you start losing, when the power structure moves, when the availability of money, when the availability of power is more open than it used to be, because it was before. Athletic director was the top dog, then the coaches. The coaches overtook athletic directors. We know that, especially in football and basketball. And now the kids are getting to where the coaches were, and they're fighting for the top. I mean, it's the same reason we've seen. I mean, we talked about it with Sorsby. I mean, half the state of Texas was ready to revolt to let this kid play, and the other half was like, get this kid out of here. He broke the rules. Like the power structure and the bleeding of everything is so weird. And again, for a university that had such success in the last 3 years or the last 5 years of national championships in 2 major sports in men's, and obviously making money, for him to step down, and then, like you said, reportedly, they want to fire him. So do they want to fire him because they found out the smoking gun from the Moore stuff? Or is this the Jimmy Johnson trade chart where so many scandals gets you so many points and finally the value just isn't worth it? Like, hey, we're paying you $12 million a year, but if we're going to get sanctions, lose scholarships, and the donations are going to stop coming in, then you're not worth it anymore. And I don't know where the scandal rankings rate, but clearly the people at Michigan have decided that this guy is not worth it. And you would know this better than I would, because despite being an avid reader of the Michigan Daily, I don't know if there is anybody who's going to be the new AD. Are they going to try and be like Harbaugh and get the big name and old? I mean, I'm throwing it out there. Could this be a Brady spot?
So somebody had mentioned that, I think, and I don't know how much you listen to the radio or how much you listen to some of these sports shows. 2 Pros and a Cup of Joe with Brady Quinn, LeVar Arrington, and Jonas Knox.
Hey, don't listen.
Oh, I think they mentioned it, or maybe somebody else, maybe another big time show had mentioned that would just be like one more thing to check off of Brady's like professional to do list of like he's a partial owner of the Raiders. You know, he's a color commentator for Fox for the NFL. Like
He's
obviously,
going to be a WWE star here soon. He signed a deal with them.
I know, and they of course created the storyline of him smacking Logan Paul. That's been like a build up for the last like I think year and a half, 2 years now.
Right.
So that doesn't surprise me. So I mean, and he obviously loves Michigan. So I mean, what other thing for him to dabble in than being the AD of Michigan? But it does lead me to another question though, because there finally is an adult in the room. And I feel like he's been put in like the worst possible spot. And it sucks because I liked him at Utah. I liked him as a head coach, and Kyle Whittingham leaves Utah after like 21 years of being the head coach there, goes to Michigan. He has to already clean up the Sharon Moore mess. And basically the guy that probably signed off on helping hire you is getting the boot at the end of the season. And so now not only do you have to right the ship from basically a football perspective as far as running everything, which a lot of people have said realistically, when you're the head coach of the football program anyway, you all but run everything to start with. So not only do you have to try to clean everything up, get Michigan back to where they were, or at least some type of fundamental stop getting in trouble, like stop putting your private parts where they don't belong or where they shouldn't belong. Like, and he has to come in and clean up all of this on top of he has to try to have success as a football coach on the field with now a sophomore quarterback in Bryce Underwood, who I don't necessarily think he underperformed last year. I think a lot of the hype that went into him, the amount of money that they paid him, especially after he decided to decommit from LSU and decide to commit to Michigan to go there. You know, the hype was behind him that he was supposed to be the next great coming. He's this 5-star quarterback and whatnot, but they didn't really have the weapons or the supporting cast around him. Now it seems like they do. They caught a couple of key pieces as far as the transfer portal goes and whatnot. It seems like they've built themselves back up. And I think with Kyle Whittingham, if we've seen anything from him at Utah, he overperforms with what you could probably consider underrated talent. But to you, do you feel like if let's say Michigan only gets like 9 wins this season, do you think then there's already Michigan fans coming out like, he's not going to be got, because they got 9 wins last year with Sharon Moore and that was a miss.
I think if they get 9 wins this year, they should be doing backflips. I think with everything going on, they should be extremely happy with 9 wins. Now, as always, when it comes to the Big Ten and when it comes to rivalries, it's going to matter who those 9 wins come against. We know that. We know if it's not against Penn State, if it's not against Ohio State, if it's not against Michigan State, if it's not against some of these teams, it's not going to matter as much. And we know that. And I think part of the reason that Underwood kind of got lost in the shuffle last year is because Julian Sand had a much better year than a lot of people predicted. That kid was not going to be this. No, I mean, like, I'm an Ohio State fan. That kid was not going into the spring game the number 1 consensus starter for Ohio State. He came in. And this year he is. But like last year, he was kind of the kid where it was like, holy crap, that kid at Ohio State, a freshman, is really good. Like they didn't forget Underwood, but like you said, it's not that he had a bad season, just kind of got overshadowed. And, it happens. So could they bounce back? Could they get 9 wins, 10 wins, 11 if it gets kind of crazy? Sure. We've seen the Big Ten get topsy-turvy, especially at the end of the year, plenty of times. Yeah. Cincinnati, Michigan, Ohio State, Wisconsin has done it. Iowa has thrown some things into there. Like, it happens. But if I'm a Michigan fan, and I'm definitely not a Michigan fan, I think 9 wins this year, I've got to be at least content. I'm not like throwing a parade, but I'm not going to burn down the stadium. It's so weird because, and I didn't realize this, somebody brought this up years ago, and I can't remember who it was. I wish I could give them credit. Of like when you are a big time college coach, and again, we're sticking to men's football, men's basketball. If you're the new football coach, you kind of lean on the basketball coach to see what the culture is and kind of like, hey, this is who the big people are, this is who you deal with, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. Whittingham's coming here, and it's all of a sudden like he's now the most tenured coach, and he hasn't coached a football game He is
Yeah.
more tenured than the basketball coach. And that's kind of scary when you're a multi-million-dollar program who is second most, third most recognizable in the Big Ten. So you're a top 10 just by aura, by everything. Like Michigan is a brand. There's Ohio State, there's Penn State, and there's Michigan. You can interchange them however you want. But in 2026, those are the big three. And now going into this with, again, a new athletic director, essentially, because he's not making decisions. He's not setting up anything for the future. A new football coach and a new basketball coach coming off an NCAA title and what? 3 years ago defending national football champions. And this is what you're at now? Good luck to that young man. I mean, he's not that young, but he's not that old.
Yeah. So to give you an idea of their schedule, so they start out, they host Western Michigan, then they host Oklahoma, they face UTEP, they host them, they host Iowa. So they don't even leave Ann Arbor the first 4 games. They don't leave Ann Arbor at all in September. Then they finally leave in October. They have to go to Minnesota. They host Penn State. They host Indiana. They go to Rutgers. They host Michigan State. Then they have to go all the way up to Eugene to take on Oregon. Then they host UCLA late in November. I don't think UCLA will do that well. And then, of course, the game to end the year at Ohio State. So, I mean, like I said, I think if they get 9 wins, they're solid because I see them losing at Oklahoma or against Oklahoma. I see them losing against Oregon, more than likely against Ohio State, and they might even lose against Indiana. So they might finish 8-4, realistically, just kind of looking at that schedule. And then also it'll kind of depend on how Penn State's doing because Penn State has a cupcake schedule this year.
Right, and Penn State is, again, that is a rivalry game, so that I throw that out the window. It's, again, like I think if you get 9 wins, you have to be okay with that. And that's the thing. What do Michigan fans expect going into this year with a first-year head coach, a second-year quarterback, all this scandal going on? What are your actual expectations?
Yeah, and we'll find out because, I mean, I feel like Michigan fans, I feel like what you said as far as, like, they're just going to be happy to be there. I think Michigan fans and Michigan as a whole wants a lot of this stuff basically not swept under the rug, but just like, hey, let's wash our hands. We're done. Let's move past it. Let's keep going and go from there. So I do think that will hold a lot of merit overall because, that whole Michigan thing is just an absolute mess.
Yeah.
But let's move on to the next one. Going to be a little bit of a into college, out of college, back into college again with a little bit of NBA. I don't talk NBA a whole lot. And Joe, I can't remember if you're a big NBA guy or not.
I am. I love my Indiana Pacers. Who's your pride, baby? I love my Indiana Pacers. But I do. I like following the league. I enjoy the league. I've realized as I've gotten older, I find basketball. I've always found it enjoyable. I've always watched it my whole life, but I find it a little bit more enjoyable. I don't necessarily like all the stuff that, with the flopping and all that, but you're going to get that in college now and even in high school. So, but no, I love watching the game and really follow it as closely as I do any other sport.
Yeah. So speaking of flopping, we have LeBron James, who finally has decided to make his grandiose decision of where he was going to play this season, and he decided on the city of brotherly love of the Philadelphia 76ers. It's a 2-year deal worth $8 million, the veteran minimum deal. And the next year, I believe, is a player option. So
it is a player option, yes.
So he can actually decide whether or not he wants to stay there or if he wants to go somewhere else, which is maybe he tries to go play for like every single team before he calls it quits just to say he's the only guy to do that. Who knows? Who knows? But I'll let you go first, though. What is your thoughts on LeBron LaFlop James going to Philadelphia?
I'm glad that you have no personal bias in this. I'm always glad when I get to talk to you and you never have any vested interest. It makes you very clear and concise in your thoughts. Tony, I've got a couple thoughts about this. Number one, I'm fascinated because, number one, he's a liar. In his opening press conference for his statement, he said that at the end of the season, he thought he was done. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. Like, you didn't. Now, you could do the whole, like, I just didn't know if I could do it again, all that. That's fine. You did not think you were done. That's not a factual statement, but that's fine. Aside from that, I'm interested because I think that he could be something for Philadelphia and I have not watched a lot of the coverage, so I'm sure this has been brought up. This is my original thought of what I thought when I saw it. This is not an original thought if other people have had it. I look at this, everybody's like, well, this starting lineup is insane. I'm not sure that he's going to be in the starting lineup. This is a guy who has not played 65 games in a few years. He is my age. He is like 42 years old. He'll be 43. I'm 44. Like, this dude is my age. What he is doing is incredible. Nothing can take away from that. This is not a disparaging remark on him. He has a chance to be like a super sub, like a Manu Ginobili. He could start 15 to 20 games in the year, depending on their depth. I also think that if you want somebody running your second team who can also play in the last 8 minutes of a game that's close, that's LeBron James. He could be that Manu Ginobili type, where if you want some of the younger guys, some of the guys with less talent, one thing LeBron has always done, guys with lesser talent, as long as they buy in, he makes them better. It has happened throughout his career. It happened in Cleveland. It happened in Miami. It happened back in Cleveland. It happened at the Lakers. And it has a chance to do it now. Forget Embiid. Forget Maxey. Forget Edgecombe. He makes other players that are not as good as him better more often than not. It's just a fact. So I don't know if that's the plan. I don't know if they've talked about the plan. But he is not the guy holding the golden chalice. He is not the best player on the team for the first time in a long time. And there were glimpses of it last year. And who knows what he's going to be this year. Keep him healthy, get him to the playoffs. That's what they want. I also think it's intriguing because, again, I don't like to get into the GOAT debate. I don't know who the greatest of all time is. I think, inarguably, no matter what, you put him top 4. When you look at stats, he's top 4. When you look at wins, he's top 4. When you look at all this stuff, he is no doubt top 4, unless you're Skip Bayless.
Right.
But
I just watched one on him today too about that.
We all have our own personal biases, like you, like me, like all of us. But what he is trying to do, and I have seen it reported, so it's fine. Very big if he were to win a title in Philadelphia, he would be the first player to win a title in 4 different cities. Okay? That is not nothing. And the reason I say that's not nothing, and somebody already is saying, hey, that won't make him the GOAT, he'll never be the GOAT. That's fine. He decided that when the Cleveland Cavaliers came back on that 73-9 Warriors team, down 3-1 and won, he said, after that, I was the GOAT. So in his mind, it is not about 1 versus 1. It is about, look at all this cool shit I can do. Look at this. I beat a 73-9 team. We were down 3-1. We came back. Impossible. I led the whole series in points, rebounds, assists, blocks, all this. So, again, he's never going to have the 6 championships as the best player on a team like Jordan. He's never going to have all the stuff that Kareem did. He is one of the most physically gifted NBA players of all time, no doubt. He is one of the most incredible stat gatherers in NBA history for points, rebounds, and assists. No doubt about that. But when you look at his whole thing, longevity has definitely been his friend. But he is looking to do really cool stuff. And if you look, Cleveland hadn't won a title in the NBA ever, but the whole city in 50-plus years. He wins one in LA. So that automatically is cool. He goes down to Miami. Who had won it there? Dwayne Wade. Cool. Now I did it with Dwayne Wade as the second best player. Dwayne Wade did it with Shaq. Great. Now I'm on par with that. Then he goes back to Cleveland where they won the title. Again, he wins one in LA. He wins in Philadelphia. Philadelphia's a basketball city. It is a basketball city. Yeah. And if they win a title there, it is a big, huge deal. Dr. J, Moses Malone, you go on that pantheon. Again, that doesn't mean you're a great 76er, but they will remember you. There will be LeBron jerseys in the stands. There will be LeBron jerseys for years to come because he brought the title back. Listen, if one of my team, the 01 Patriots hold a special place in my heart, it was the first team. But man, you love being a part of championships, and everybody remembers you. Oh, you were on that team. You were on that. Trust me, they win one this year. Everybody's going to remember LeBron James was on this team, and whether he had anything to do with it or not, he will get some credit. Not the lion's share of the credit. He will get some credit. So I think at this point, if he is trying to challenge any doubters, like the Skip Baylesses, like the Tony H's, like the Joes, of if he's the greatest or not, you can't win the six. You can't do all the MVPs. You can't do all that. You just got to do a bunch of cool stuff. And winning a title in Philadelphia is really effing cool.
True. There was a few things that I heard people bring up that to me made a lot of sense. And of course, one of them being the biggest of, everybody's like, well, is he the GOAT? Is he not? Because he's compared to Jordan. And the thought was brought up that everybody talks about, especially more older basketball players, and you could even make this argument with football too. A lot of these older guys, they tend to stick with the team that they get drafted with, or that whoever they had the most success with, they stay with them through thick and thin. Truly like a marriage, like good or bad, they're with them through it all. And you hear a lot of people make the argument of, well, he had to leave Cleveland to go win a couple championships, and then he came back, he won a championship with Cleveland, then he has to leave again to go to LA to win another championship because Cleveland wouldn't go get him help. I was actually listening to this on the way home. Somebody had brought up the fact of, if you look at the second time that he was leaving Cleveland, that the GM at the time was worried about, okay, well, what do we do post LeBron? Like, what does that look like? And it's like, well, you still lost LeBron, you still took a dive, and it was still bad no matter how you look at it. One of the other things that they brought up, and it's one of those, like you said, I have a bit of a personal bias because I'm very critical of uber LeBron fans,
right?
Because he likes to build super teams, which with, as somebody put it, like Avengers level rosters to compete against everybody. But it does bring up a good point though. Is he doing it because he truly feels that he needs that in order to succeed? And you can make the argument too, once you win a championship, are you not almost in the consideration of being a Hall of Fame or a really good player because you were on a championship team? It's not just one person doing this, it's a whole collective. Or is he doing it because if you look at competition, like you go out there to win, that's your only job to do it. Doesn't matter how you win as long as you bring home the W. So, he may be looking at it of, what is my best way to compete in order to get to that point? But here is my thing when I first saw this. And again, I don't follow basketball the greatest. I like watching it in the playoffs. I think NBA playoff basketball is great. And the biggest reason why, I think the NBA has too many games. 84 games or 82, however many games, is absolutely ridiculous because you can go on like a 25, 30 game losing streak. And if you all of a sudden, again, it's not realistic, but statistically, you could rip off like 50 wins. And next thing you know, depending on if you're in the East or the West, you could be like a 2 or 3 seed. And it's like, wait a minute, this, how is this the team that lost, 30 games in a row, and then all of a sudden they're going through this? Not like it would ever happen. That's not realistic, but it is technically possible.
Yeah.
But he's going to Philly, where they already got a Finals MVP in Jaylen Brown, because they got him from the Celtics. Crazy move. Because they gave basically like a bag of chips and a half working Paul George to get him. Like, hardly anything to get him. You already had Joel Embiid. You already have Tyrese Maxey. And now you have LeBron James, who, like, I know you mentioned you don't think he's even going to be in the starting lineup. To me, like, do you think LeBron has really come to that point in his age and in his career where he has accepted, like, you're going to be the 4th or 5th guy in the rotation? Like, you're not even going to be a starter. Like, I think he accepted it more with LA when they brought in Luka, because Luka's young, because he is the future, and because Luka is a superstar. And it's like, okay, he's prepared. He was kind of prepared being in the older part of like, yeah, I'm not going to be that guy anymore. And he's obviously been more okay with it when he went to Miami because you were around Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh. Like, you were not the star. Like, you were a star, but you weren't the guy. You were just a benefit, and really you could just go out and hoop, and that's really all you had to do.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of weird to see. And here's the other argument I would almost have for the quote unquote GOAT conversation, because you look at Brady, and again, you don't even have to compare him just directly to Jordan, but Jordan, Kobe, Shaq, like how many of these guys kind of sat back and was like, I think I'm okay with being a role player? Because how many times as a competitor, when you're one of the few guys in the world that can even get to that point, says, you know what, I'm okay with not having to do as much, because once you lose that spot, it's really hard to get it back, and it's even harder to get back when, like you said, he turns 43 this year on December 30th. Like how many more times are you going to be okay with, like, yeah, I'll just be a role player just because I want to play ball?
And it is really hard. I mean, Russell Westbrook has struggled with that, who's, again, not at the LeBron level, as a really, really great player who is now looking for a team just like, hey, man, like, I'm going to sign like a $2 million deal. Yeah. I just want to go play somewhere. These guys want to play. I think LeBron James loves the game of basketball. To go debate again, we can settle that another time. Yeah. If I were LeBron James, I would binge season 1 Ted Lasso multiple times and just watch from the prospect of Roy Kent. And I finally watched that show this year, and it's incredible, and I love it, and I'm going to start it again. But I remember watching that and remember, like, the part of Roy Kent was really great because they didn't have to show you how great he was. Mm-hmm. Everybody talked how great he was. And he wanted to play like that, and he couldn't. And he knew he couldn't, but he didn't want to talk about how he couldn't. No. And LeBron James leaving the Lakers, signing a 2-year deal with a player option for $8 million is kind of like Roy in the cold bath, where he's like, just yell at me. Like, I know I screwed up. I know. But LeBron hasn't screwed up. That's the thing. For all the things you want to say about LeBron, he hasn't screwed up. The Lakers brought a move to bring in a young superstar to be the future leader of the team. LeBron changed the way that he played, because he does do that very well, and said, this is Luka's team now. And instead of trying to have some drawn-out contract thing with, well, how much are you going to give me and what I did for this team? He's like, I mean, the initial report was LeBron James has informed the Lakers he will not be returning this season. Not that he wants to return, not that he, like, hey, man, good luck, guys. Thanks for everything. I'm going to go somewhere else. You guys go do you. Yeah. That's a pretty big move for a guy who is the center of media attention for literally the last, 26 years. Literally, since he was in high school. I can remember watching his games on ESPN in high school. It's not an exaggeration. For almost 30 years, he has been the center of attention in one way or another in every room he walks in. So this is a big move. I don't know what's in his psyche. I don't know what is going to push him and how long he'll do this. If he wins a title in the first year, maybe he opts out and says, I'm going to go chase one more. Maybe I go to OKC. Maybe I go to Minnesota. Maybe I go to San Antonio. Maybe I go to some of these teams that have another chance. I have no idea. But it is a fascinating way to see how his career is going to end. Because I honestly, I 100% seeing him say at some point, this is my last season in the NBA. At some point, this year, next year, whenever. This is my last season. Do the farewell tour, do all that. But I could also see him kind of just after the season, just go, I think I'm done.
Yeah, and I can see that too.
So again, and there's not a wrong answer in that. This is as much as we love to argue and talk and debate about sports, this is this guy's life. Mm-hmm. And whether he let the cameras in or not, it's, I'm gonna go old school here for a minute. Tony, I don't even know if you remember the show ER. Mm-hmm. There was a great episode where after Mark Green was attacked, this camera crew came in and they were talking and they wanted to film all this stuff, right? Yeah. And they saw Carter mess something up. And Dr. Green going in as the teacher and all this, did it and helped. And they wanted to sit down and interview with Mark and talk about his assault and all the stuff that happened. He's like, I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to talk about that. Mm-hmm. And finally, when he saw that they recorded what Carter screwed up and like this person died and all this, Mark's like, don't use that footage. And I'm like, why? It was great. And he goes, I'll sit down and do the interview.
Mm-hmm.
And as much as it hurt him, as much as it hurt his pride, and as much as maybe he had to work through, it was this great episode. You got to see it from this different angle.
Yeah.
And at times, LeBron has let us see that. And maybe it comes to a point where it's like, he'll never say he's old. He'll just say he's done. I can't keep up or do this. And there will come a time, I believe, in his career where he's going to be Mark and somebody's going to, whether they put him on a poster or where they do something, and he's like, I need to change. So that's why I think this year could be the super sub year, where it is taking a step back, where it's like, hey, I got the contract. I'm not the number one guy. Don't come to me after the games. Go talk to Jalen. Go talk to Tyrese. Go talk to Joel. I'm just here to play basketball. Maybe that's it. Maybe you're going to see a shift change in all this. I don't know. And I think that is what's going to make the Philadelphia Sixers the great unknown. We don't know what the Celtics are going to be. We don't know what the Thunder are going to be. We don't know what the Spurs or the Pacers or the Knicks are going to be. We really don't know what the 76ers are going to be. We don't. And I don't think that's a bad thing. Isn't that kind of the fun of sports?
Yeah. And I think the other thing, too, that a lot of people have been really worried about with Philly is, with the exception of, and again, you can correct me if I'm wrong because you pay attention more to the NBA than I do, with the exception of Jaylen Brown, like all those guys, like Joel Embiid, kind of has history being hurt. Like I know Tyrese Maxey is still fairly new. I don't think he's been hurt that much, but I think
he had a little injury issue, but nothing major, no.
And I know LeBron is actually like he's never been derailed, like having to have surgery and being out for like an entire season. He has definitely got a longevity crown and like blessed with some of the best like best long-term durability you could ever ask of a professional sports athlete in any major sport, to be doing it for this long that he has. That's the other thing I've kind of heard with people who are maybe a bit more skeptical on Philly is whether or not, can everybody stay healthy in order to really do this? So yeah, that's kind of my big question, but we will move on from LaFlop James to, I know, as you can tell, I'm a huge LeBron fan. Just like Joe's a huge fan of Michigan, I'm a huge fan of LeBron James.
Pull your shirt down. Your bias is showing.
But let's end the show on a high note, and kind of an interesting one because if anybody follows college football as much as I do, and even as much as Joe does, there have been some inklings and some rumblings here for a while. I mean, we're talking the last couple of years with the playoff expansion. They expanded it from 4 teams now all the way up to 12, and now the big topic: do they go to 16 teams or do they go to 24? And initially, by all reports, the Big Ten was the only conference that wanted 24 teams. The ACC, Big 12, and SEC were like, nope, we're standing our ground. We want 16. Okay. And then they thought about it. And then the ACC and the Big 12 apparently came out and said, look, we don't want to fall by the wayside because we know one of the two of us is probably going to become the third conference, while the other one may or may not even exist anymore. So we're going to side with the Big Ten because maybe they won't poach from us as much. And if it helps us get more teams in to show off our conference and our brands, we're going to go to 24, which leaves the poor little old Southeastern Conference, the SEC, is the lone wolf to fight against the Big Ten. And of course, with SEC Media Days happening last week in Tampa, all of these questions were asked to Greg Sankey, all of the coaches. What are their thoughts? Nick Saban weighed his opinions on all of it.
I have no doubt he did.
And most of this stems from the Big Ten and the SEC had a mutual agreement. And the agreement was if the SEC moves to 9 conference games, which they did starting this year, that then the Big Ten would be more inclined to do the 16-team playoff. They were like, okay, we'll do kind of a handshake agreement. We'll make this happen. We'll sign off on 16 teams, and then we should be good for a while. Let's move forward from there. Well, apparently the Big Ten got their way and once more because the SEC agreed to do 9 conference games, but then they still decided we want to do 24 because they have like 18 teams in the conference. Not like all 18 are going, but they have 18 teams.
They think all 18 are going. Sonny. They think all 18 are going.
No, they ain't. I can tell you right now, Purdue football and Northwestern football are not getting anywhere close. But
Rutgers slander will not be appreciated on the podcast.
Hey, 20 years ago, you could make that argument. 20 days ago, you can't make that argument. Oh, MJ, you are almost there. You guys have the benefit. Penn State has a super easy Big Ten schedule this year. Like, that is probably the best schedule that a team could get, especially for a team that is kind of rebuilding and figuring out who they are again with a new head coach. But nonetheless, though, there has been talks that the SEC might split off from the NCAA and create their own new league. Now, funny enough, one of your favorite coaches, a former Ohio State coach in Urban Meyer, brought up actually a really good point on his thoughts about it. And he thinks if the SEC breaks off, they won't do it alone. That if they break off to form their own league, that some other conference might also do it too. Now, of course, the big fish in the room, they think it'll be the Big Ten. Why the Big Ten would do that with the SEC? Maybe it's this do or die hard pact that they have with each other, but we've seen those definitely get turned around very quickly, and maybe it's just the ACC and the Big 12 contending with each other. But I guess the question to you, Joe, is do you think the SEC would ever do something like that or any other conference? Because, I mean, everybody's kind of getting sick and tired of the NCAA as a whole because they do, but they don't have power. The College Sports Commission could have power if everybody signed off on it, but then that would mean everybody comes back to kind of a semi-level playing field. And for a lot of these teams, like Miami, who I know is in the ACC, but still Miami, who's a big spender, Texas, who's a big spender, LSU, Ohio State, Michigan, all of these teams that they're flourishing right now in this, wild west of college football, that they may not want to sign off on it because no, I don't want my competition to be level with me. I want to only have to really deal with like 5 or 6 teams that I have to deal with. Yeah. Otherwise, it's a cakewalk for me.
Yeah, it's like going to a gunfight where everybody has the same gun, and you're like, no, like I'm super rich. I bought the, I bought the Smith & Wesson, and it's like, nope, you're going to use everybody's going to use the same gun. You're like, well, no, that helps. And it's like, well, tough. It's like, This is the gunfight that's going on. I hate this. If somebody wants to go by, the LIV, the Live Golf, has shown that these secondary leagues cannot sustain themselves. With billions and trillions of dollars of Saudi money, they got bored because it's not the same. I think if the Big Ten, if the SEC wants to go, I think the Big Ten should help them pack. And they should be the ones who establish themselves as the anchor to the NCAA. Listen, we talked about Michigan earlier. Michigan has the most wins in NCAA history because of a long history. You leave, those don't go away, but they kind of lose their luster. And I think if a team, if a conference like the SEC wants to threaten to leave the NCAA for all of the faults the NCAA has, you let them leave. The LIV golfers left. They still play in the majors. The PGA Tour did, because of the loss of some of those players, change some of the policies for the PGA players that the PGA players have warranted and said, hey, listen, they stepped up to the plate. They did some things. Rory McIlroy has been very adamant that he is staying with the PGA for all of its faults and, things like that said. And I think that if the SEC and the ACC want to go off and create another league, another division, whatever they want to do, go and let them. And they'll probably get a lot of people watching them. But it's not the NCAA. Listen, there is a reason we see the highlights of the USFL games more than we watch the actual game. Because a highlight, a catch is cool. A tackle, an interception, a whatever is awesome. But when you watch it, it is not the product that you want to see. It is the NFL. It is the same reason that you'll get 8,000 people going to a training camp and you'll get 50,000 people in a stadium. There is a difference. And whether it and I'm sorry, like if you are the Big Ten, you almost have to be begging that the SEC decides to try and pull this off. Because yes, they will make money, they will get sponsors, they will even attract a few colleges or maybe even a few conferences. But this allows you to be the anchor, be the change you want to be. If you are the Big Ten and the NCAA loses the SEC, which is no small thing, by the way. I'm not saying that it is not a big deal. It is a huge deal. But if you are the Big Ten, again, we should just call this episode the power episode. It is about the power. You now hold the power. You have the brand recognition. You are the most established conference. You want to argue with who it is? You were the SEC? Guess what? The SEC no longer exists. Bye, Felicia. We are the number one conference. People tune in to see us. You put those teams on our schedule, they tune in. I'm sorry. Like, if the SEC and the Big Ten have some back room, shake deal, I'd be shocked. If I'm the Big Ten, I've got to be salivating at the fact that the SEC is even floating the idea of leaving because the NCAA is broken. Again, be the change you want to be. If you're the Big Ten, then you force the NCAA. Listen, this is what needs fixed. This is what we're doing. Whether it is a salary cap, whether it is a spending gap, whatever it is, I figure this stuff out. But I think leaving is a huge, huge problem for the Big Ten.
Well, here's apparently the other part that goes into it of not just the NCAA being broken, but the college football playoff as a whole and that whole ranking committee. And one of the things that was brought up that there's a part of me agrees and there's a part of me that disagrees. Like it's one of those trying to be as neutral as I am. I do see the logic in both sides of it. And one of them being, and I think Lane Kiffin brought this up actually in his press conference that, and I know there might be a little bit of bias there, even though I don't know how in the world that whole thing is going to pan out. Hopefully really well. Otherwise, damn it. The argument was made that should a consideration be made more for a 9-3 SEC team to get in as compared to, let's say, whoever comes out of the Big 12, let's say it's Texas Tech, if they come out 10-2 or 11-1 and they get that playoff spot, should the overall comparison of conferences be made? And I guess part of that does go back to the scheduling, because the SEC's rules for scheduling is there has to be 9 conference games. So you're playing at least 9 of the teams in your conference. And one of your out-of-conference games has to be a Power 4 opponent. So that means anybody in the Big 10, anybody in the Big 12, anybody in the ACC, and or Notre Dame can be on that list of who you have to face. But you only basically get 2 cupcake games now, which for us fans, that's great, because do I necessarily want to watch, Georgia kick the crap out of Mercer? Not really. That's not even fun. That's just a warm-up game for your 4th string guys. That's not even a fun game to see.
Hey, we get to see the third punter.
Literally. I gotta get him some reps. His legs gotta get warmed up. But it does kind of make sense, because as much as I love the Big 12 and as entertaining as the Big 12 is, it does kind of make sense. When you look at the Big 12 as a whole, there's 16 teams in that conference. And realistically, when you look at them, there's 2 teams are considered the heavy favorites, and then a whole bunch of
traditionally
kind of maybes. It's right now it's Texas Tech, even though there's a huge question as far as quarterback goes, even though Will Hammond had a great game against Utah last year and balled out. What does he look like this year? BYU is supposed to still be up there as far as their talent, even though their wide receiver room is in question. And then, of course, Utah is maybe the 3rd. But again, what does Utah look like now post Kyle Whittingham, post the changes of everything? But for the most part, the Big 12 is just wide open. So whoever wins that conference, they may come out, and whoever is second may come out, 10-2, 11-1, whatever the case may be. So let's just say for hypothetical argument situations, it's like it was last year. You have a Texas Tech team that's 12-0. Okay, they won the conference outright. All right, cool, they're in. But then you're sitting with BYU, who went 11-2, because the only 2 games they lost was to Texas Tech. And then let's say, again, for sake of argument, you have Alabama, who ended up going 9-3 because they lost in the SEC game. Who deserved to be in? Was it Alabama because they got the crap kicked out of them by a better Georgia team who went slightly farther than Texas Tech did, or BYU because they won 11 games? Which, again, part of me is like, well, you can only play and win who's on your schedule, so there's only so much you can do with that as far as how teams are recognized and the value behind them. So BYU did what they were supposed to do and won more games, but you look at the how many ranked teams did Alabama play? Like, they played Tennessee, who was ranked. They played LSU, who's supposed to be like a preseason national champ potential. They played Georgia, and they beat them. Like, I think that's another big part where a lot of these coaches in the SEC is like, not to just toot their own horn, but it does come into the argument of like, how do you do the fair evaluation of which team do you think would be better? A more battle-tested team that has a couple losses, or a team that they won their games, but they basically beat cupcakes to get there?
Can we figure this out? Tony, you were when it comes to college football, you were one of the smartest people, the smartest person I know when it comes to college football. Maybe other than my friend Lewis, who loves college football as much as you do, but you guys are smart. Can we just figure this out real quick? I'm going to ask you a series of questions. I want quick, short answers. We're going to figure this out right now. You ready?
Okay.
18 playoff, no buys. We're good, right?
Yeah, I would be okay with that.
A 3-week bye after the conference championship games, and that is when the playoffs start. So every team gets a minimum of 3 weeks off, and then the playoff starts. We cool with that?
Okay.
How many games does each team play in a season?
If you including
a traditional schedule, traditional schedule
be 12. Well, 12, and then depending on if you make your conference championship or not, that would be 13.
Great.
At least
no college football playoff rankings until after week 7. We don't see any rankings. No team gets ranked. Nobody gets to be the quote unquote preseason favorite. Nothing official. There's nothing. After 7 weeks of football, when you've played a couple cupcake games, a couple conference games, and probably your non-conference against a Power 4 opponent, then they can start to talk about, because we've seen too many times where these teams that aren't good get preseason rankings that are high and then lose game but never really drop down, and teams that nobody expected to be good never get a chance to come up. So if you want to make it into the top 8, you don't get an automatic pass into the top 8 and then just have to kind of stay afloat. Everybody earns their spot. So no college football playoff rankings until at least week 7 of a, like, again, I don't want to talk about MVP in the NFL until after Thanksgiving. I don't want to talk about it in October. I don't. It doesn't make sense. So we cool with that?
Mm-hmm. So here's another thing that real quick to add in there that somebody brought up.
One more.
Okay.
I got one more.
Okay.
Winning your conference does not give you an automatic invite into the top 8.
Ooh.
It does not. If you win your conference, you are not automatically in. If you want to do this, if you want to make the 8 best teams, no preseason rankings, no college football rankings until minimum week 7. Everybody plays the schedule like you talked about. 9 conference opponents, 1, Power 4, and then 2, whatever you want to do. Ohio State will play Youngstown State to give them $500,000. Michigan will play Central Michigan Tech University. They'll give them, $500,000 and all this. And then if you win your conference championship game, it is not an automatic guarantee that you are in the top 8.
So then here'd be my only counter question to that. Do the conference games even matter at that point? Because supposedly now they do and they don't matter. Because if you win your conference, then you are in. But if you lose, you're quote-unquote not technically punished, even though BYU lost theirs, even though they weren't technically considered in, but it was an extra game that counts against them that they lost to the same team, even though they got absolutely destroyed in that game. Alabama, like you said, got the benefit of they faced Georgia in the SEC championship, got absolutely housed, but they didn't drop. Nothing changed in their rankings. They stayed exactly where they were before the game, and then even after taking a massive loss in the game, they stayed exactly where they were. So really, with that, do you think we should even have conference championships game? Like, do
We
you almost
should.
think they should do it like basketball, of just whoever has the two best records, or if like it's a tiebreaker type of thing? Like, if you have two 11-1 teams, like you guys are co Big Ten champions or co
Sure,
SEC
because I think that's still important. I think being a conference champion is important, but I don't think that everything has. It's same as like baseball. I don't think the league that wins should host the World Series. I don't think that's something that has to be involved. I don't necessarily think that. So let's say in your scenario, right?
Mhm.
Let's say we have two teams, and we'll just throw two teams out. Let's say it's Ohio State and Michigan, right? They show up to the game. They're both undefeated, or they both have one loss, right? And then nobody else in the Big Ten is good. But we've seen that they're the two best teams clearly in the Big Ten this year. Michigan wins,
Mhm.
but they're still number 1 and 2 in the conference. And
Yeah.
they play the conference championship game. And Michigan wins. Or let's say Ohio State wins. They flip the script and wins.
Yeah.
But it was kind of fluky because Michigan's quarterback goes down or this or that.
Mhm.
Maybe people want to vote Michigan in. Maybe they don't want to vote Ohio State in. Maybe they say, Ohio State kind of got lucky. Or like you talked about with Penn State, with having a cupcake schedule. Maybe if Penn State goes and they beat a bunch of cupcakes and there's a few injuries, kind of like how the Pacers made it to the finals because a lot of teams got hurt. And all of a sudden it's like, I don't know. Do we really want them to go represent us in the call? I'm not against you winning your conference and going. I'm just saying we don't necessarily have to make it an automatic bid. Because let's face it, if you're an Alabama team and you are ranked in the top 10 going into a college football season, it is almost impossible not to make an 18 playoff.
True.
Almost impossible, right? Like last year's Alabama team was not good.
Nope.
They
But
weren't
still
good
got in.
compared to and they they never dropped out of the top 15. They essentially
No, they did. They did after week 1. Week 1 was
Okay.
the only time because they lost to Florida State.
Sure. And then they never, ever, ever got another demerit that bad.
Nope.
And again, why are we ranking teams where we haven't seen play? Like, I don't know what Ohio State's going to look like this year. I'm not comfortable making them the number 1 or number 2 team in the country. I want to go watch some football. I want to see this. Like, and if the rankings come out and they're 5-1 and the offense is kind of sputtering and the defense is just okay, I'm okay with them being ranked 17th. It'll suck as a fan. But if they're the 17th ranked team in the country, then you got some work to do, man. Like, let's light some fires under some asses. And the whole rankings throughout the year, I don't like it. I know they don't, quote unquote, release the rankings until then. They do it every week. It's not like they go to a cave and all this. And I hate that the Big Ten is for this 2014 playoff. It is horrible.
Yes.
Listen, we're men here. We're talking, okay? Do you want to go to a beauty pageant with the top 5 most beautiful women, or do you want to go to a beauty pageant with the top 100 most beautiful women? Because guess what? 78 through 100, probably not going to be the high quality that you're expecting from 1 through 10. I'm sorry. Call me a jerk. That's the way it is. 16 through 24, 17 through 24 in a college football playoff, 13 through 24 is not going to be good. I'm sorry. They're not.
No, and that's my biggest issue, because the only thing to me that a 2014 playoff does, if everything is considered equal, and like you said, if the conferences technically don't matter, if it's just whoever the top 24 teams ranked are get in, then it makes the top 25 worth something. Because like you said, if you're just stuck at the 18th, it's like, okay, I'm not good enough, or I'm not going to move up unless one of these teams just absolutely flounders and drops. So it's like 18th doesn't really do much for me. But yeah, if it's like the top 24, I'm not sitting here like, man, that 17th ranked team, like, man, if they get in, like it's over. It's over for everybody. Watch out. But there is one other thing that Nick Saban brought up that I thought, believe it or not, considering it's Nick Saban, and he does have some fairly good ideas when it comes to college football, and I will give him credit where credit is due. He brought up eliminate the whole cupcake thing, right? He said 12 games, 12 Power 4 opponents. Doesn't matter who, like, you can have your 9 conference. So let's say, everybody gets to 9. The SEC faces 9 SEC teams, but then your other 3, power for opponents. You could do a rotation, one team from the Big 12, ACC, and Big 10. Those can fill your three. You can throw Notre Dame in there, whoever you want. But then that way it's easier because, okay, let's say you do have a team that's 9-3. Okay, who are your three losses? Well, you beat a Big 10 team, you beat a Big 12 team, but you lost to an ACC team, and then you won 8 out of your 9 SEC games. Okay, you're probably a pretty good team that's going to be competitive and you're going to produce pretty good results. We should be able to throw you in there. Now, if you're, 7-5 and your losses are to all three other power opponents and you lost some of your conference games, yeah, you're probably not going to get in there.
Probably not.
To me, that puts almost everyone on a better, more equal playing field because, again, you're, like you said, you're not beating up on Youngstown State. You're not beating up on Mercer or the Citadel. You have to face Arizona or Baylor, or you have to face, whether it's Penn State, Michigan State. Even if they are the lower tier conference teams, you are having to face a power team that is in a big time conference, and let's just see how you do.
I don't hate the idea. Could we tweak it a little bit? How about, because this is when it gets into, again, it's all subjective, right? You have to play a Power 4 team within 500 miles of your college. You have to play a Power 4 team further than 500 miles from your college, and then you get one spot. If you want to schedule a subdivision team, go ahead. But if you want to schedule another Power 4 team, people are probably going to look at that favorably. If you are Ohio State and you want to do a favor to give Youngstown State some money because you get a big paycheck for paying them, that is your choice. But if you want to go play Arizona State, as a opponent, nothing against Arizona State. You said Arizona, I said Arizona State. Then maybe that's what you do. But if you basically make it that it is a quote unquote regional non-conference game, a non-regional non-conference game, and then a wild card game, maybe that's the way to go. And then the school can figure it out from there. And that way you're not forcing them to do it, but you're kind of like, hey guys, you know what happens if you schedule that subdivision team. You might not have it as favorably looked as a team that goes and plays 3 Power 4 schools.
Yeah. No, I agree, because then, it would give you a better idea of, like you said, let's take Ohio State, for example. If you look at the 12 games that they play, and like you said, if they play Youngstown State, it's all right, well, yes, you beat them, but let's say you do lose a couple of games against Power 4 opponents. Maybe if that last game, if you got to win, maybe that tips the scale in your favor as far as
100%
you go up against and whatnot. So I like that. I don't mind that, but that was one of the interesting things that I heard Nick Saban say as far as his thoughts for trying to save college football and make college football better, because it is something us fans want to see. How many times do we get a Big 12 versus Big 10, crossover matchup in football? We see a lot of basketball, and basketball's cool. Don't get me wrong. I love seeing college basketball and those cross conference rivalries, because it's ooh, okay, this is different. We don't get to see it all the time in college football. You get the Cy-Hawk because it's Big 10 versus Big 12, but it's that's only one of those, it's really good when it happens kind of thing, but it doesn't happen all that often. And other than, then there's Kentucky versus Louisville, but kind of the same thing. They're not, Kentucky is not exactly a powerhouse in football, and same with Louisville. So it's I guess the closest ones you could get would be Florida State, Florida, or Florida, Miami. When all those teams are good and they face off, it's okay, this is the cross rivalry that we wanted to watch and we wanted to see.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, man, that is pretty much everything that we had.
Awesome.
Thank
you again for having me. I love coming on. I love talking with you. You're always cool, calm, and collected. As Stuart Scott said, you're as cool as the other side of the pillow.
I try to be. I try. And I always try to work on my graphics to make stuff look cool too. But I appreciate you being on, Joe. I always appreciate your thoughts, and because again, there's only I don't think people really understand whenever you do something like podcasts and whenever you have a specific topic, no matter what it is, sports, heck, you could even go if you really want to get deep into it. And this is, again, completely subjective. Like if you get anything like politics, like you have some people you're like, wow, this person really knows what they're talking about. Like, oh God, this person doesn't know what they're talking about. Anything like that. It's hard to find people. It's like, okay, they have a different perspective, but I like hearing what they have. I like seeing their perspective on this. And you're one of those people when it comes to sports. It's like, I like Joe's thoughts and opinions because Joe always comes with something different. It's like, okay, yeah, I kind of see where he's coming from with that. So I appreciate you coming on, good sir.
Oh, of course. I love it. And just keep rocking, man. I love it.
I'm trying. And then, of course, we still need to talk with Amon as far as our schedule for getting jawing and balling back up.
Listen, this kid is traveling all around the world calling cricket games. He's forgot about us. We're the cousins that, like, we have all these childhood memories. We have all these photos, and now we're like, hey man, did you change your number? He goes, no, I've been really busy, and like I got married and got a couple kids, and we'll still play wiffle ball out in the yard. It's okay.
We'll still play some video games when I have time. You never have time.
I never have time.
That's what it feels like. But we'll get it up and going. I say it's kind of one of those when I thought about it, I was like, well, yeah, we're talking about doing it in the off season, which we could do. We could still do shows. Man, it's going to be rough though because it's the off season. It's really hard to talk about stuff in the off season.
Oh, I love it. I love talking off season. Off season's my favorite because then you get to come up with the crazy ideas.
Oh man, the crazy ideas, the crazy topics. Of course, the best part, all the drama because everybody's bored and they're like, God, I just want football to come back. Like, oh hey, Michigan's athletic director is stepping down because he said, hey man, don't bring the side chick with you. Like, oh, what else do you got hiding under there, buddy? Awesome. But nonetheless, I appreciate everybody tuning in. If you liked this, definitely check out Inside the Hoosier Mind wherever you get your podcast, wherever you like to social media. I am pretty much everywhere at Inside the Hoosier Mind. Definitely check out Joe. Joe will be doing hopefully more shows with me, as well as we'll be starting up jawing and balling all over again. We just don't have dates or times yet that we want to do that, but we will definitely start come football season, and hopefully just before football season we'll get that started.
Right.
And then Joe does have another podcast he occasionally does, the Out of Bounds, but I don't know as much about that one.
That's okay. We're starting it back up. We had to get on a different feed, but I'll have more information the next time. But as always, man, thanks everybody for tuning in, and thank you for Tony. There's nobody better in the business, man.
Well, I appreciate that. And if you enjoyed this and if you enjoyed other hosts here on Military Broadcast Radio, definitely check them out at mbradio.us. It's a slew of great veterans. They talk sports. They talk life. They talk, again, all the tea. If you like a lot of really good tea and a lot of, conspiracy theories, court case reviews, all sorts of stuff, definitely check out Into the Weeds podcast with Amber and Alora. They are absolutely awesome. Check out MJ with her show, The Conscious Mind of Positive Thinking, I believe is the name of it. She can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but she has everything as far as changing how you think, changing how you look at stuff. She's awesome. And again, we have a ton of other great veteran hosts too on the show. And then also, again, if you want great beard care products, check out Gunfighter Beard Co. He has great stuff. I don't get paid by him. I don't get a cut of anything. It was just one of those, I like his beard care products. I'm like, hey man, you're a veteran. I do a show on a military network. Like, can I give you shout outs? He's like, yeah, man, absolutely. I'm like, do you have a script for me? He's like, hell no, just tell them whatever you want to tell them, like positively. I'm like, oh man, that's dangerous. That's absolutely dangerous. He's like, nah, man. He goes, I trust you. So definitely check him out if you want great beard care stuff. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Don't know if we'll do a show next week because again, we are deep into the off season, but we will definitely have a show. Probably the 18th, right before the football season kicks off. We'll probably do a show before then. Again, we might have one in between there. We'll see. But again, appreciate everybody tuning in, and we will see y'all later.
Hi, I'm Beaker with Military Broadcast Radio TV. We're your virtual MWR, bringing veterans radio, podcasts, gaming, animation, 3D printing, and a community that never leaves you behind. Download our Roku or mobile app today.
Wisdom to share if you listen this week, so pull up a chair and stay for a spell. We're heading down a trail where good stories dwell.